Factorials. Hopefully you've talked a little bit about them before. The main thing you need to know for AP Calculus is how to simplify them. So first let's remind ourselves what they are. I put an exclamation point because that's how they're notated. That's how we write a factorial, is with an exclamation point. So 4 factorial, for example, means 1 times 2 times 3 times 4. You just multiply 1 all the way up through whatever number it tells you. So 5 factorial is 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5. N factorial means 1 times 2 times 3 all the way up to n minus 1, which just means the number right before n, times n. Before we do some examples, two more things you need to know. 1 factorial would obviously just be 1. And 0 factorial is considered a definition. There's not really a way to prove this or anything. It's just what they've decided to make it. 0 factorial is also equal to 1. Bottom line is that makes the math work out nicely, and that's the way they've decided to define it. So 1 factorial and 0 factorial are both equal to 1. So now, like I said, what you mainly need to know for calculus is how to reduce these. Okay, so 4 factorial over 7 factorial. So if you expand these, 4 factorial is 1 times 2 times 3 times 4. 7 factorial is 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7. You have to multiply all of those. Well, if you look, there's lots of stuff you can cancel out. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that just leaves you with 1 over 5 times 6 times 7, which is 1 over 210. Okay, well, that's going to be difficult if we have any numbers that are much larger than things like 4 and 7. So let me show you another way you could have approached this. You know 4 factorial includes all the numbers 1 through 4. 7 factorial includes all the numbers 1 through 7. So instead of expanding the 4, what I'm going to do is say, okay, 4 is clearly the smaller of the two. So I'm not going to expand it. I'm just going to leave it as 4 factorial. And 7 factorial, I'm going to write as 4 factorial times 5 times 6 times 7. Because remember that 4 factorial covers 1 through 4 for me. And I know 7 is going to have 1 through 7, so it has 1 through 4, and then 5, 6, 7. So then I can just cross out the 4 factorials, and I just get 1 over 5 times 6 times 7, which is what I had, and I still get 1 over 210. So that's the pattern I'd recommend you follow. Figure out which one's smaller, leave it alone. Expand the big one by starting at the smaller one, in this case 4, and then working your way up to that bigger number. Okay, let's try our next one. 8 factorial over 5 factorial. So which one is smaller? Clearly 5. So I leave 5 factorial alone, but I expand 8 factorial by starting with the smaller number, which is 5, and then work up 6, 7, 8 till I get to my number. Because 5 factorial means 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5, so I'm just saving myself some writing by using the factorial. Then you can see the 5 factorials will cancel out, and I get 6 times 7 times 8, which is 336. Now it gets a little trickier because sometimes they won't give you any numbers. They're just going to give you variables. So here we have n plus 3 factorial over n factorial. Well, clearly n is smaller. If you add 3, it makes things bigger. So n factorial is the smaller one. So I'm going to leave that one alone. Now on top, I'm going to start with n factorial and then work my way up. A number that's 1 bigger than n is n plus 1. 1 bigger than that is n plus 2. 1 bigger than that is n plus 3. And I get there. If you notice, that's actually exactly what we were doing in the previous example. Just think about n being 5, and you can hopefully see that it's the same thing. So the n factorials cancel out, and my answer is just n plus 1 times n plus 2 times n plus 3. And there is no need to multiply all that out, so please don't. Just leave it as n plus 1 times n plus 2 times n plus 3. Okay, one more example. 2n minus 2 factorial over 2n plus 1 factorial. Obviously the smaller one would be 2n minus 2, so I'm going to leave that one alone. 2n minus 2 factorial, I just leave it alone. Now on the bottom, I start with 2n minus 2. You always start with the smaller one, because that represents all the numbers, 1 up through that number, 2n minus 2. And then I go up 1. Okay, if I add 1 to that, it's 2n minus 1. Add 1 to that, it's 2n. Add 1 to that, it's 2n plus 1. I can cross out the 2n minus 2's, and I get 1 over 2n minus 1 times 2n times 2n plus 1. And that's my answer. So that's how you reduce factorials.